It is 4 p.m. We're bringing developing news.
And the stories behind the headlines. This is StoryCon. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Ed Lingao. Some stories are watching this Thursday, July 2. President Bongbong Marcos confident that the Iglesia ni Cristo will remain peaceful. A rally will remain peaceful. However, he says government is concerned over reports that outside groups may infiltrate the rally and provoke unrest. The INC is currently staging the third day of its rally at Liwasang Bonifacio in Manila. The first 2 days of the rally were held at the EDSA People Power Monument.
Malakas ang loob ko kasi sa buong kasaysayan, ang iglesia, pag nag-rally, kahit napakarami, hindi sila nanggugulo. And that for me was the main concern that somebody might get hurt. Problema lang namin is that merong impormasyon na siyempre merong mga mag-infiltrate, mag-agitate. Yun ang inaalala namin. Yung pinaka-importante sa amin, walang masaktan. Either tiga-iglesia or kung sino man na mapunta ron na manggulo. So let's just keep everything stable and peaceful. And so far it has been. So I thank everybody involved for keeping it safe for everybody.
The president hailed the Philippines' transition to upper middle income country status. In a video statement, Marcos said this reflects the success of the government's economic policies. The World Bank said the country reached a milestone after its gross national income or GNI per capita rose to $4,850 above the upper middle income threshold. President Marcos is currently in Canada for a 4-day official visit.
After nearly 4 decades as a lower middle income country since 1987, this milestone affirms that the economic policies that we have pursued over the past 4 years have been effective. Our steady economic growth, broadly stable currency, and long-term reforms have strengthened our economy even amid global uncertainties. It validates the progress that we have made and the resilience of the Filipino people. It is also a vote of confidence in our country's future. Greater confidence means more investments. More investments means more businesses, better quality jobs, and more opportunities for Filipino families. This is worth celebrating because economic progress is not meant to stay on paper. It is meant to open doors, put food on the table, and give every Filipino the chance to build a better life. That is the work that we will continue to do until every family feels the benefit of our country's progress.
The Ombudsman says it is not serving any warrant of arrest against Senator Rodante Marcoleta once his plunder case is filed before the Sandigan Bayan. Assistant Ombudsman Miko Clavano made the clarification after Marcoleta said he was ready to submit to arrest. Clavano also maintains that the case may still qualify as plunder even though the 75 million peso funds came from private donors. Ombudsman Boy Remulla earlier said that the office remains on track to file a plunder case against the center with the filing expected, and quote, this week.
When we looked at the case, they will comprise of indirect bribery on each count. Now, in law school, the theory is when there's direct or indirect bribery, when there's a series or combination of transactions like that, it will really comprise of the crime of plunder.
And of course, joining us today, StoryCon's resident political philosopher, Mr. Ronald Llamas.
Good afternoon.
Wala naman ako sinasabi.
Parang natawa yung katabi ko.
May delay pa eh.
Medyo delayed.
I wasn't saying anything. I was just giving you your space. Wala ka naman sinabi except good afternoon.
May delay. Talaga, notable na rin yung delay. Oh. Dead air.
There's a very pregnant pause.
May dumang anghel eh. Oh.
And from the Philippine Star, of course, we've got Editor-in-Chief, Amy Pamintuan. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Ami.
Hi everyone! Happy Thursday!
Happy Thursday.
Well,
Malapit na weekend.
Pink ba yan? Pink ba yung suot mo? Pink? Ano ba yan?
Orange. Orange yan. Nag-iiba sa monitor yung ano eh. Orange
Pink
to
ang
eh.
itsura eh.
Pwede siyang, pwede naman siyang, mas parang pink.
Hindi
siya.
siya pink, it's orange.
Nagse-celebrate ba kayo dyan,
Sa monitor, lumalabas ganyan eh.
Ami, nagse-celebrate pa kayo dyan? Kuha na tayo?
Upper middle class.
Upper middle class? Upper...
Hindi ko nga maintindihan
Upper
kung ano
middle
yung
class.
kailangan pa-explain
Ayan,
natin kasi
papaliwanag na
impact
mamaya.
nun, ano.
What
Mababawasan
exactly
yung ano
means?
natin. Unang-una, mababawasan yung mga ano natin, mga aid to the Philippines.
yung
Meron
Katoliko
mga,
pwedeng
mga
paliwanag.
ano dyan na hindi na tayo eligible.
Ikaw magpaliwanag sa
Yan ang
presinto.
isa nun.
Okay.
Liwanag ko sa
Si
presinto.
Miss Bloomberg. Magpapaliwanag.
Okay, so
sige.
ang threshold, so sabi ng World Bank, the GNI, gross national income, which is what the average Filipino makes, is now $4,850 US, which is just under 300,000 pesos. Mataas yan. Ang threshold kasi nila is 4,600. I was trying to look up the
Mataas ng konti
4,636.
dyan.
Yung cut-off ng upper middle income country is 4,636. So obviously 4,850 is above that, and the World Bank cited a broad-based economic growth. Sabi nila, this is not a single sector boom, meaning not a single sector drove this improvement. It was across the board,
Economy-wide shift.
economy-wide shift over a number of years, across a number of years that the Philippines enacted the reforms. Kasabay ng improve ng ranking ng Philippines are 4 other countries: Jordan, Micronesia, Sri Lanka, and Vietnam. Vietnam, not surprisingly, has a higher GNI than the Philippines. I think they're at 5,000 or something USD.
Yeah.
The DepDev, the formerly NEDA, the Department of Economy Planning and Development, says, obviously they welcome this, says this is confirms the resilience of the Philippine economy. And this should do a number of things on the positive side. Strengthen the country's profile, boost investor confidence, and expand access to financing and higher quality investments over the long run. The question, I guess, the implication is, what happens to the concessional financing? Yung tinatawag nating mga ODAs, Official Development Assistance, or grants that
Ano nga?
richer nations give to developing countries like the Philippines. These are usually very low rates. For example, Japan, as we know, is one of our biggest ODA sources. What happens to them now that we're no longer officially lower middle income country? That's the number one. Related to that, what happens to the tariffs, the preferential rates for tariffs? So, for example, the EU,
Yes.
with the EU, the Philippines has what we call a GSP, Generalized System of Preferences, wherein more than 6,200 Filipino products get into the EU market duty-free because nandun tayo sa GSP Plus system. And as far as I know, the EU also uses World Bank classifications in order to hand out these GSP Plus. Apart from the, yung conditions nila on human rights and living standards and all of that. Apart from that, they also use World Bank data to classify trade partners. So that's the second question. And financing. Okay, so sabi ng DepDev, sabi ng government, we should have more access to financing and higher quality investments, but does it also mean mas mataas na yung interest rate na babayaran natin? Again, because we are no longer classified as lower middle income country. Those are the questions that we need to find out from the government. Kasi sila lang yung may hawak ng data.
So yung balance sheet, kailangan pang timbangin.
Yes.
Kung ano yung, kung lumamang ba tayo,
Ano yung
hindi.
ibig sabihin? Ang Indonesia kasi 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, naging upper din.
Upper middle.
Upper
Upper
middle.
middle income.
Although yung Trade Union Congress of the Philippines naglabas ng statement ngayon, if the Philippines is truly an upper middle income country, then it must pay its workers upper middle income wages.
Actually, that's the other question. It's whether the inequality, the gap has been reduced. Kasi yung GNI, yung gross national income, okay, pagsama-sama mo yung national income in 1 year, tapos divide mo by 112 million Filipinos. Yun ang pumapatak na average ngayon, $4,850 per person. Per year. So So, average nga is mga almost 300,000 pesos per year. Ang tanong ng marami siguro, naturally they'll ask is, kumikita ba kami ng ganyan? Ilan sa atin ang kumikita ng ganyan? But yun nga, it's an average eh.
Oh. You
Yeah.
don't need data to show that the inequality is still very wide, and one of the widest in the regions, in fact. In May, the latest SWS survey on poverty, 52%
Self-rated.
rated themselves as poor.
Self-rated dyan, oh.
Yes, self-rated, 52%. Very, very high. Another 13% rated themselves as borderline between poor and non-poor. That is still a very far category from upper middle income. So together, that's 65% in the borderline between poor and non-poor and poor category. So how, again, ito yung disconnect, right? How can we be upper middle income status when so much of the country remains poor and are still going hungry?
I
Baka
was,
na-pull up tayo
yun nga
ng,
yung sabi
ng mga
ng-
sobrang yayaman.
Hindi, na-pull up tayo ng OFWs. Yun yung
Yes.
makikita mo when you look at the
Ah.
data, it's the OFW income that pulled us up. Malakas ang dollar ngayon, don't forget.
okay.
So because of the OFW contribution, tumaas yung average income ng Pilipino. Kasi kinakount nila yung overseas
Yes.
So,
income.
dahil bumabagsak
Yes.
yung piso,
Yes. Pero ang sabi nga ng Trade Union Congress of the Philippines, sa Bangsamoro kasi is 411 pesos per day. Tapos sa Metro Manila ay 780 pesos. So huge chunks
Yeah, average
ng labor. Oh, hindi, ito yung kwan. 5 million workers, minimum wage earners kasi. So 780 pesos per day.
Okay.
Bangsamoro is lower, 411 per day. So may ganung range. Kaya gusto pa nila i-deconstruct anong ibig sabihin ng high middle income or upper middle income. Anong ibig sabihin yan? Dahil hindi nila nararamdaman. Yun yung kanila.
you know,
Yeah.
I was looking for figures or numbers that would tell us the average income of Filipinos. Recently, the most recent, the better. Ang mahanap pala is PSA 2023, pero average family income, which is for a family of 4, 353,000 pesos per year for a family of 4.
May annual naman tayong GNI, tingnan nyo. May annual tayo niyan.
Yung annual GNI is 820 pesos per
Oh,
day.
makukuha nyo yun. Annual GNI.
Yeah.
Baka yun na nga, naiwanan na tayo ng mga kapitbahay natin, including Vietnam.
Yeah. Siguro isang comparison yan. Yung
So,
mga kapitbahay natin.
So yeah, exactly. So as I
Yeah.
said, in this particular upgrade, kasabay natin ng Vietnam, moving into the upper middle
Yeah.
income category, their GNI is $4,970. So slightly above where we are, 4,850. But the GNI of Vietnam was also driven by their export, their manufacturing boost.
Yeah,
Meaning,
iba yung base nila.
iba yung base nila, more people in Vietnam are earning higher. Yung sa atin, it's driven by the OFWs, so more people outside the Philippines are earning more and not the people
inside.
here.
Not inside.
So yun yung key difference doon. Although of course, and Vietnam as well has overtaken the Philippines in terms of yung GDP growth.
Yeah.
No? Nung
In a
una,
lot of things.
in a lot of things.
Especially,
Kailangan chicken yung inequality, yung
Especially-
income gap. Kailangan chicken yon.
ang dramatic
Kasi
gap ang dramatic
marami
na
nagsasalita ngayon na hanggang ano lang yan, hanggang balita lang yan.
ang
Yun ang
dramatic
sinasabi ng mga
difference Ami is education. No, ang
Yeah.
baba ng learning poverty sa Vietnam habang
Yan,
tayo ang
taas-taas.
taas.
Ay, hindi, sa atin.
Oh, atin ang taas 91%. Sa kanila
Ang taas
is
natin, wow.
below 20% yung learning poverty. Kaya nakatulong yan, ma-boost yung kanilang economy. Education is a key component.
Yeah. Saka kailan lang kinukumpara natin sarili natin sa Thailand eh. Naiwanan na tayo ngayon, layo-layo na.
malayo na ang
Vietnam
Thailand.
na tayo ngayon nagko-compare.
Oh.
Ang GNI per capita ng Thailand is already $7,000.
Yeah,
Above
layo-layo na
7,000.
nila.
Malayo na sila.
Dati halos pareha tayo.
Legal pa marijuana.
Naiwanan na tayo.
parang yun ang
That's,
ano mo.
yun yung importante sa kanya.
Parang yun ang,
Observation lang. Observation.
yun ang mahalaga.
Maybe it's related, no? People are more productive.
Masaya.
Mas,
Oo,
kasi
masaya.
mas
Relax,
high.
relax.
Mas high yung numbers.
High productivity.
Oo,
Relax.
Oh my God. Nahawa na ako sa sense of
Viernes,
humor
ang
nila.
Huwebes
Yung utang natin ngayon, naging 18.55 trillion.
Yep.
Yan pa isang bagong balita ngayong araw.
Ano bang debt to GDP natin ngayon?
Lagpas
Taas,
60% na, 68% na.
68.
68%.
Oh, lagpas na yun. Oo.
few
Lagpas
months
na
back,
60 threshold.
Ngayon, 68. Taas yan, ha?
Oh. Mataas nga.
That's one of the
Kaya nga.
highest, if not the
It's
highest.
very, very high.
It's very high.
Again, to compare, in Pinoy's time, it was below 60%. Where were you guys?
It's between 50 to 60.
Between 50 to 60. 60 kasi yung internationally
Yeah.
Threshold.
accepted threshold of still okay debt
Saka hanggat
levels.
maaari, very conservative kasi Pinoy, ayaw niya mangutang. Hanggat maaari.
So ngayon, we're at 68%, 18.5 trillion pesos yung debt by the end of March. 18.3,
55.
yeah, 55.
55
Correct.
trillion.
Correct. 18.55 trillion.
Saka record high yung dollar. Ano ba ngayon ang dollar? 60 plus?
61.
61, no?
Nasa 60
Record
pa.
high.
Oh. So I mean, obviously there's a lot of big questions about this. Not to say hindi siya good news. Okay, it's good news. It means, and yung reforms that we're talking about, by the way, weren't just enacted in the last 4 years. These are reforms
Yeah.
that we've been working towards for the past 10, 15, 20 years even, di ba? Kasi we've been in low middle income status since 1987. So that's almost 40 years ago. So since then, the Philippines has been trying to get out of that, move into the next category. So on
Kailangan daw more reforms, sabi ng Management Association of the Philippines. Yan ang reaction nila dyan sa bago nating status.
Oo.
Sabi nila,
Totoo
they
naman.
need more
Yeah.
reforms.
Yeah. So hindi pwedeng we can't just let the government say, okay, this will bring in more investments, better credit profile, etc., etc. If the problems on the ground are the same, kunyari, mahal ang kuryente, red tape and bureaucracy are so bad, the digital systems are
Corruption.
not there. Corruption is very bad. So it can't just be this without the structural reforms on the ground.
Yung growth nitong quarter is below 3. Below 3%.
Below tayo. That's partly because of the Middle East conflict. Although, malaki, hindi lang partly. Malaking factor yung conflict in the Middle East.
Pero Bok, yung conflict in the Middle East kasi that was late February already. But the first quarter figure was
Nag-umpisa,
already
pero
2
tuloy-tuloy. Saka napatong yan dun sa gulo natin sa flood control na
So yun nga.
frozen yung government spending. Tapos yung business confidence was down, nagkapatong-patong siya.
So hindi pa ganun ka-factored in actually yung gulo sa Middle East dun sa first quarter figures kasi nga end February.
Sisimula pa lang.
nangyari,
Nag-umpisa pa lang.
pasimula pa lang.
No, February 28 yun eh.
Oo, so baka yung second quarter natin will not be
March.
very...
Baka mas malala yung March.
Which
yung
also-
second quarter,
Which also brings up the
mas
question na
mabagal.
how stable is our position as an upper middle income country come July 1 next year.
Pag ni-review ulit.
Oo, kung ni-review nila yung this year's numbers.
Baka bumaba tayo dun sa threshold.
Baka magano tayo ulit, no? Roller coaster.
Maliit lang yung natin eh. Maliit lang yung taas natin dun sa threshold eh.
Sino ba yung cup half full dito?
Ikaw, di ba? Si Reg.
Ako!
Parang puro cup half empty.
Okay. The cup half full scenario is, okay, now you have
Pinaalala ko lang.
now you have recognition globally na you've made your growth more broad-based. Some reforms have taken root, so nag-improve kahit pa paano yung economy, kahit na in the last 3-4 quarters, bagsak nga yung, last 2 quarters pala, bagsak nga yung economy. So this is a stepping stone, right? You could potentially move back into high 5%, 6% growth from here if you take advantage.
But
But
you
again,
also
yan
potentially
ang
say,
challenge
so you
dyan.
don't need the money anymore.
You either sustain or
Hindi.
you increase.
Nasa
Diba?
ano na yun, nasa economic managers na yun. You can go to, for example, our trading partners, the EU, Japan, Australia, the UK, and so on and so forth, and say, keep us at this levels, at these tariff rates for an X amount of time, or something like that. Napapakiusapan naman yun eh. or somehow negotiate that. So it is possible. We're not saying that tariff rates and financing interest rates will jump overnight. This takes time. So kaya lang, we have to be prepared for a future wherein mas mataas na yung interest rates na babayaran natin because we're classified as upper middle income. Mas mataas na rin yung tariff rates. We're no longer at zero, for example. So we have to prepare for that world, for that scenario.
The kid gloves are off, or
Yes. So it's both opportunity and challenge, I would say.
well, marami naman tayong challenges. Eh. Hindi lang
And then, of course,
hindi lang natin na-overcome. We just survive.
we just
Ano?
survive.
Do we bring in our mojo ready, or you wanna look
Oo nga, nakikita
for
ko
more
eh.
stuff to put in the cup?
There's plenty of stuff in the cup. Look, my cup is half full, literally.
Oh, sige, let's bring in our mojo. Who's our mojo coming up? It's Jeff.
Third day of the
J.
INC
Rivera.
rally, we have Francis Rivera over there. Francis.
Oh, AB, Sec Ronald, and
Reg.
Regine. Nandito tayo kayo sa Liwasang Bonifacio, dito sa Maynila. And as you can see, halos andito na nga tayo sa pinakadulo ng Liwasang Bonifacio. Sa dami nga ng mga miyembro ng INC ngayon na nagtitipon-tipon dito. Continuous yung ginagawa nilang program, and ini-encourage na nila ng mga organizer ng INC na magtipon-tipon na dahil sa
Looks like
Nagbe-break
our
up siya.
signal is not very good today.
Nagbe-break up siya. O, ayan yung
Francis, balikan ka namin kaya, or okay, yeah, we'll call you again.
Sinuspinde mga klase all levels sa Manila ni Mayor Isko eh.
I'm curious kung gano'ng
Although
karaming crowd eh.
winelcome naman niya yung sabi niya okay lang daw yung rally.
Nagpadala pa siya ng pagkain.
Freedom Park daw yan.
Nagpadala pa siya ng lunch packs.
Freedom Park daw yung liwasan eh. Pero si Congressman Libiste, pinull out daw yung niya.
Yung 500?
Contingent. I'm not sure kung tama yung nakuha namin Nag-pull out na sila.
Baka napagod.
Baka kaya galing pang Batangas yun eh. Paano? Mga constituent niya yun sa Batangas.
Ang bulto raw darating...
Diba? Ito namang mga to, karamihan dito, around Metro Manila lang to eh.
Ang bulto raw darating tonight. Ang bulto. Dahil nga
Yan sa liwasan.
tatapusin yung mga trabaho nila. No? Yan yung mga nakatapos ng pagsamba kaninang umaga.
Huwebes nga pala, no?
Dahil pagsamba ngayon eh. No? Pero may mga galing pa sa trabaho at may mga galing sa probinsya. Pero grabe ang traffic ngayon sa NLEX.
Kaya
Bumper
nga
to bumper.
Bakit hindi nila sa Rizal Park? Para
Well,
nakakadaanan niya ng mga truck. Sobrang traffic yung lugar na yan.
Kung Rizal Park kasi, kakalug ka kung wala kang
Kung kukunti kayo.
Kung wala kang 100,000. Kaya,
Pero ayan, grabe yan. Katabihan ng City Hall. Katabihan ng mga schools.
yes. Pero pwede kang matulog dyan. Sa EDSA kasi wala kang tutulugan eh.
Hindi, dun sa sa Rizal Park.
Oo.
Wala pa 1 kilometro yung Rizal Park, nandyan na sila.
Parang embudo pa naman yung tapat ng Met.
Oo. Daanan niya ng mga truck, delivery truck.
Papuntang Quiapo at palabas ng Quiapo.
Yeah. Kaya ayan.
Hindi pa ganun karami.
Hindi naman siya ganun karami actually.
Hindi siya ganun karami.
Oo. Ewan ko, baka naman may traffic control dyan para makadaan yung mga sasakyan. We're looking at the park eh.
Okay, let's bring in Francis. Francis, I think we just have him on the phone. Pero anyway, Francis, may video naman tayo pinadala earlier. So tell us about it.
Wala pa rin.
Pati audio wala ka.
Wala pa rin. Baka may jammer dyan sa
Sige, Francis,
sa
papadala
park.
ka ng load. Sige, we'll try again,
Baka may
Francis.
jammer sa park.
Hindi yata smart ang gamit ni Francis eh.
Hindi pwede yun ko talaga.
Nag-entry ka pa rin.
No, Francis, we'll get in touch with you again. So, why am I talking to you? You can
Pero
probably hear me.
mabuti, umalis na sila sa EDSA, no? Wala nang traffic doon.
Saka walang permit eh.
Lumipat lang, pinul out ng Quezon City government.
Marami kasi nagreklamo. Ami,
Yan na nga.
yung mga nakatira ron.
Eto, magrereklamo din mga tao rito.
Pero at
Kasi
least,
yung katabi niya yung Hall of Justice.
pero wala kasi mga resident.
Across dyan yung Hall of Justice ng Maynila.
Pero wala kasi nakatira
Hello?
dyan eh. Wala nakatira sa White Plains, sa Corinthian, etc. May mga nakatira
Check.
eh.
Koy, marami
Hello,
na
hello?
likod ng Binondo.
nga.
Santa Cruz, Quiapo.
Oo nga. Pero dyan sa
Hello, hello?
Liwasan, wala nakatira.
Yeah, Francis, we can hear you.
Si Francis, yeah.
Hello?
Francis.
Go, Francis. We can hear you.
Yes.
What's happening
Oh.
there?
Ayan, hello?
Yeah, go.
Yes.
Kanina ba?
Yes, Francis, go on.
Alright, yeah. So as of the moment, continues pa rin yung program ng Iglesia ni Cristo dito sa Liwasan, Bonifacio. And yun nga, sabi ko kanina, umabot as of
Wala.
Nawala uli.
Ayun,
Nawala uli.
Yung pa naman yung mahalaga, yung dami. As of.
Baka may signal jammer dyan.
As of. Ayan.
halos punong-puno na. As in, nandito na tayo sa pinakadulo, yung malapit na sa kalsada, papuntang Itamuros. At sa lagay naman ng trapiko, medyo bumibigat na rin, pero moving. Pero yung volume kasi nung mga sasakyan dahil malapit na rin mag-rush hour, talagang bumibigat na rin yung daloy ng trapiko.
Anong estimate mo, Francis, ang dami?
Yung binigay sa ating numero is 8,900 ang tumalo ngayon dito sa Ronald, dito sa Sumong Liwasang Bonifacio, no? At yung iba kasi dito sa Ronald, mula kagabi pa, karamihan sa kanila galing pa sa EDSA,
EDSA.
no? Yung mga nanggaling sa White Plains, dumiretso dito at ayon nga doon sa mga nakausap natin, dito na sila nagpalipas ng gabi. Kaya kung pinasok natin itong mga liblib, yung mga shaded area, may mga tent, may mga nakalatag na mga panig, yung sapin kung saan niya sila nagpahinga at natulog.
Kanina namang estimate yung 8,900 at ba't napaka-eksakto naman na may
Kaninong
900?
estimate yun,
Is it
Sarah?
8 to 9,000?
8,900. Kaninong estimate yun, Francis?
Sa MDRMO ng Manila.
Ang galing nila.
Pero nakakadaan naman yung mga sasakyan. Francis,
Yes.
kasi hindi masyadong malaki actually ang liwasan eh. Nakakadaan ba
Yes,
around the park yung mga sasakyan?
Yes, Abby. Yun naman yung role ng mga enforcer. May mga traffic enforcer naman dito na nag-assist ng daloy ng trapiko. At medyo bahagyang umihinto. Nagkakaroon lamang sila ng kapag tumatawid na yung mga miyembro ng IHC from underpass going here. So, bahagyang pinapahinto nila yung mga sasakyan para magbigay daan doon sa mga tatawid, no? Pero sa nakikita natin, gabi ng paggabi, for sure baka magsara din itong pedestrian dahil parami sila ng parami.
So may dumarating pa.
May,
May dumarating pa hanggang ngayon.
mahihira. Marami bang pulis dyan,
Mismong likod,
Francis?
halos punong-puno na.
Maraming pulis. Kasi mahihirapan sila magsara dyan ng kalye, daanan yan ng mga truck eh. Maglalabasan ng mga truck maya-maya, mga bandang gabi. Dati namin, dyan kami dati, opisina namin eh. Grabe traffic dyan pagdating ng gabi.
Ang target nila full force bukas.
Yes. Tama ka, Amy, kanina nakausap natin si Police Major Philip Ines at
Yeah.
sa kanya sapat daw yung numero ng kapulisan na nakaantabay, nagbabantay sa paligid nitong Liwasang Bonifacio. Kasi hindi lang dito sa Liwasang Bonifacio ang
Okay,
Nawawala.
okay, we better let him go.
Nawala uli.
Di
Okay.
stable ang linya.
Nawala uli.
Po sa
Francis, sige, bitawan ko muna namin dahil medyo choppy ka. We'll come back to you na lang later if there are any new developments from your end. Okay, maraming salamat, Francis Rivera, mula po sa Liwasang Bonifacio. Anyway, tight security measures remain in place in Mendiola. For the latest updates, we have mobile journalist Evan Tarinque. Evan, kamusta ang sitwasyon dyan sa Mendiola? Nakikita ko sa likod mo ang malalaking mga harang ng container van.
Tama ka dyan, Bok, no? Simula nga nung Martes, no? Itong mga malalaking container vans na ito dito sa Mendiola, nilagay na ng PNP. Ikot ko kayo ng current situation dito dahil sa mga oras naman na to, okay pa naman at wala pa naman masyadong wala pa naman tayo nakikita mga rallyista na dumarating dito, no? Ito makikita natin, ito yung entrance ng Recto Avenue. Makikita natin, ito may mga concrete barriers. Meron din itong mga barbed wires na nakaharang dito, no? Pero pag tagos nila dyan, ito naman yung sasalubong. Itong mga malalaking container vans na simula pa nga nung Martes, inilagay na dyan ng kapulisan, no? Kanina, inikot natin yung situation dito sa loob, dito sa may bandang Mendiola. And so far, sa ating pagmamaseda, this past few days, no? Kalmado pa naman yung situation. Pero sa kabila niyan, talagang mahigpit pa rin at nananatili naka-heightened alert yung ating mga kapulisan dito nga sa Mendiola. Isa kasi dun sa talagang binabantayan nila yung tinatawag na spillover ng mga rallyista, no, na baka pumunta dito, dumiretso dito, lalo na ngayon na sa Liwasang Bonifacio na lang. Or nasa Liwasang Bonifacio na yung pagtitipon ng mga nakikilos protesta ngayon, no. Mas malapit na siya compared dun sa EDSA, dun sa ating pag-check is nasa around 2 kilometers away lang yung Liwasang Bonifacio mula papunta dito sa Mendiola. Kaya naman mahigpit pa rin yung seguridad ng kapulisan dito, no. Pero kilaro naman ng MPD, no, ng Manila Police District na sa apat na Freedom Parks lang pwedeng magkilos protesta nang hindi kinakailangan na permit. Itong ating mga nagkikilos protesta ngayon, yan nga yung sa Liwasang Bonifacio, Plaza Miranda, Plaza Dilao at Plaza Moriones. Pero so far sa ngayon, no, patuloy yung monitoring nila ngayong araw kung sakali man nga na may darating na magkilos protesta. Pero sa ngayon, nananatiling kalmado at patuloy na minomonitor ng kapulisan itong Mendiola ngayon. Bok?
Siguro pa-situate lang ng konti para ma-orient kami. Sa likod mo kasi kita ko yung LRT eh. Saan yung direction papuntang Malacanang? Nasa harapan mo ba?
Tama ka dyan, Bok. Ito, ikot natin, no? So, currently, ito yung CM Recto Avenue.
Okay.
Ito yung papasok ng Malacanang. So, ibig sabihin, ito nga mga container vans na ito, pag diniretso natin to, pag lumagpas tayo dito, actually, dito naka-standby yung ilang police mobile ng PNP. Kaya naman ito, paglagpas natin dito, punong-puno ito ng mga police mobile at sa likod nga nito, dito naka-standby muna yung ating mga kapulisan. Pero pag diniretso natin to, Bok, no, dire-diretso yan, ito na yung papunta ng Mendiola Peace Arc. So yan na yung papunta ng Malacanang. Pero
Okay.
sa sitwasyon ngayon, no, Bok, pati yung sa Ligarda Street, hinarang rin ng mga ganitong containers, no. So ito, makikita naman natin, solid pa rin talaga yung mga containers at talagang merong bigat. Kaya naman na kinailangan yan gamitan ng malalaking mga forklifts para nga ma-set up yung mga container vans na yan para nga maging dagdag or another layer ng pangharang kung sakali nga man na merong darating na magkikilos protesta dito. Bok?
Okay? Ano? Kayo?
Di na uso barbed wire, no?
Hindi, meron.
May
Meron pa
konti.
rin, no?
Merong barbed wire.
Actually, Ronald,
Ay,
meron
nabanggit
may
mo
barbed
yung
wire.
ibang yung ibang park, meron bang mga
Mukhang-
nagpupulong-pulong din? Nabanggit mo yung
Mukhang wala
Moriones, yung ibang...
Hindi,
May
hindi.
nakita ba sila na
Iwasan-
nag-gather doon? Wala.
Iwasan lang.
Sa ngayon, wala. No?
Iwasan
Pero
lang.
ito kasi yung mga
Iwasan lang.
freedom parks na to, ito yung mga
Wala
lugar
permit.
na pwedeng puntahan or magkaroon ng pagtitipon na hindi nga kinakailangan ng permit, no? Pero so far kasi ngayon, Liwasang Bonifacio pa lang yung ino-occupy nung mga nagkikilos protesta. So kinlaro lang yun sa atin nung MPD, no, na itong parks na to, no need to hingi ng permit kung sakali man na pupunta doon or doon magdadaos ng kilos protesta yung ilang mga rallyista natin ngayon. Ami.
Nung
Yung
panahon,
government
nung
offices,
panahon namin,
bukas ba? City Hall, halimbawa. City Hall, yung courts, are they open?
Ami, karamihan ng mga, actually, yung mga eskwelahan dito no, sa Maynila is nagsuspend ng classes. Simula
Sinuspend din
ngayong araw. No?
Sinuspend yung classes.
Tama ka dyan, Ami, no?
Pero
Kasi
yung government office,
hindi.
yung government office, Ami, no, may mga ilan, pero so far kasi nakikita natin yung nagkakaroon ng operational itong City Hall, no? Yung kanina nga morning, nagkaroon sila ng palibreng palugaw dito nga sa may liwasang Bonifacio, no? Pero so far, we'll keep on checking kung open ba yung offices dahil 4:30 PM na. Alam naman natin, medyo maaga nagsasarado yung mga opisina ngayon. Pero in terms of yung mga pasok nga amin nung lalo na ito sa Mendiola, karamihan dito mga eskwelahan, no? And yung this past few days, no, talagang halos late na nag-a-announce ng suspension ng classes. Nung Martes, 3 PM na nag-suspend. Kaya naman yung ilang mga commuters, pati na rin yung mga guro, pati estudyante, talagang nahassle pauwi ng kanilang mga bahay dahil yun nga, sarado itong Legarda Street, sarado rin itong CM Recto na kadalasan sinasakyan nila ng mga jeep. Kaya naman naging hassle yun. Pero kagabi, or kaninang madaling araw, maaga nag-advise na suspended yung classes, pati na rin yung ilang colleges na mag-turn muna sila sa online learning para kahit paano hindi masyadong maapektuhan yung mga estudyante ngayon. Ami.
Nung panahon namin ni Ami, wala pa yung container vans na yan, no? Ang dala-dala namin, mga kawayan, pangtulak sa barbed wire. No? That was half a century ago.
Wow.
Alam mo, Ronald,
You gave yourself away.
Di pa pinapaganak si Kwanon, si Reg.
Ronald, hindi na usong barbed wire ngayon. Razor wire na ang tawag dyan.
Razor wire. No?
Mas
Dala-dala namin, kawayan.
deadly.
Tulak yan.
Ang barbed wire, yung mga pointy tips ng alambre. Ang razor wire, na siya, matalas. Hindi
Razor
matalas,
talaga.
pero
Pwedeng putulin.
Razor talaga.
Oo. Hindi, pero
Actually, pwede natin pakita no, medyo malapit tayo dito. Lapitan
yan.
lang natin itong
Yan.
mga razor wire natin.
Yan.
Ito.
Mas delikado yung razor
Medj.
wire eh.
Hindi, pero merong cutter ngayon na mahaba eh.
Yeah.
Oo. Dati wala.
So ito yung itsura ng mga razor wire natin ngayon. As in, yan, razor talaga.
concertina.
Medyo-
Concertina wire.
Concertina rin tawag yun eh.
Medyo may kalawang na yung iba. So,
Pero kung meron-
kapag talagang
Kasi di kami
nadikit ka.
coils.
Pero kung 5 kayo, may dala kayong kawayan, pwede itulak yan eh. Sabay-sabay.
Well, ngayon, Ronald, yung ilan kasi dito, binobolt nila sa, sa
Kalsada?
sahig, no?
Oh, grabe yun.
Meron
Oo,
may
kawayan
itong
pa
mga
dyan.
nasa harapan natin, itong mga harang na to, itong mga
Grabe
razor
yun,
wires na to. May mga binobolt nila yan sa ilalim.
Oo.
So medyo mahirap at medyo may kabigatan rin talaga itulak itong mga harang na ito. Doon nga actually kahapon noong Martes, nahirapan talaga iusog itong mga razor wire na to dahil nga ilalagay itong container van dito sa likuran ko.
kung nakabolt,
Inabot sila ng
mahirap
kailangan
talaga.
nila gumamit ng mga heavy machineries para lang talaga maiusog at maibalik sa pwesto na ito yung mga pangharang na ito. Ronald.
Ngayon ako nakarinig na
Yung
nakabolt.
nagtitinda ng mais, ayun, mais.
Si Ami, nakita lang yung pagkain eh. Nasa recto kayo.
Boiled mais.
Wala naman tao.
Hindi, tsaka dati, pag nag-rally kami, nagbebenta ng taho eh.
Tsaka yung fishball.
Oo, nagbebenta ng taho. Lakas ng kita ng taho pag rally.
Pagpasensya mo na, Evan, nagre-reminisce lang si instigator, our chief
Ayun.
instigator.
Yung katabi ko, hindi nakaranas siya ng rally, yung katabi ko.
But si Ed. Pero last question for me, are they expecting anyone there? Any lawmakers, any big personalities there today?
Red, so far wala namang or advice na meron mga darating dito. No? Ang patuloy nga lagi sinasabi ng MPD sa atin is laging handa naman daw at sapat naman daw yung augmentation pati na rin yung deployment ng mga kapulisan dito. So, pero in terms of mga darating na mga big personalities dito sa Mendiola, so far wala tayong nakukuhang information for that. Pero so far ngayon yung augmentation kasi dito pati na rin yung bilang ng mga kapulisan dito is more than nasa 2,000, no? Paligid yan ng Malacanang area. Yan yung nakuha nating datos earlier this morning Pero so far, no, lagi nga nila sasabi, committed sila at handa raw sila maggantay na kahit ilang araw pa basta kakailanganin daw yung kanilang serbisyo at mapanatili nga yung peace and order sa lugar na to. Kasi alam naman natin, itong Mendiola, isa to doon sa main gateway or main pathway papunta sa Malacanang at hindi na bago dito yung pagdating or yung pagkakaroon ng kilos protesta. Pero so far sa ngayon, no, these past 3 days or 2 days na minomonitor natin itong lugar na to, nananatiling kalmado at naka-heightened alert yung mga kapulisan. Pero wala pa naman tayong nakikita ni isang magkikilos protesta o rallyista dito sa Mendiola. Reg?
Okay, we'll leave that there. Thank you so much for your updates. That was mobile journalist Evan Tarinque
Thank you, Evan.
coming to us live from Mendiola.
Eban and only.
I think we better pause for a gap because lumalabas ni jokes, Tito Jokes ni Ed. You are watching Storycon News. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.
We've got developing news to the stories behind the headlines. Welcome back to Storycon, the Story Conference. I'm Ed Lingao.
And I'm Regina Lay. Still with us, Emmy Pamintuan of the Philippine Star and Ronald Llamas, a resident political heckler.
Sumasabit. Sumasabit.
Why?
Parang pag sinasabi mong upper middle income, sumasabit yan. Ganun.
Ganun eh.
We should rejoice. We're upper middle income.
You guys hang on kasi we will have somebody from Deb in a while to explain to us the details and to put it in layman's terms so people will understand it better and what it means. Actually, that's also what's more important and what it means to you and me.
Sasabihin ng mga tao, hindi pa po ako upper middle income.
But yeah,
Yan ang sinasabi.
that's what has
Yan
to be
yung common
addressed.
comment.
Of course. And let's also remind them that itong classification na to ay kinalculate based on GNI per capita. GNI per capita is just the
per
average
capita yun eh.
Average
income per person. So, average lang yon. The total income of the country divided by the population. So, yung average
Yeah.
income ng about. Hindi naman ibig sabihin lahat tayo ganun yung income.
Halimbawa, yung income ni Ed, ang taas.
Divided by...
Income ko, ang baba.
So, pag
Negative.
dinivide mo,
Diba?
ay, negative nga pala siya.
Diba? Ganun yung ibig
Abunado
sabihin.
pa kasi.
Ako ba hinihinga ng lechon tsaka alak pag may party dito?
Walang ingay. Walang ganyan.
Which is true, I will acknowledge.
But I suppose, yun nga, like we were saying, we know it's an average, so not everybody earns the same thing. Our guest is already here. Let's bring him in. Let's bring her in.
Yeah. Dito na.
Okay.
We...
Yes. Can you
joining
hear me
us-
well?
Yeah, so we're talking to the
Yes.
DepDev, or Department of Economy, Planning and Development, Undersecretary for Policy and Planning, Rosemary Edilion. Welcome to Storycon, Yusek Edilion.
Magandang hapon po.
Magandang hapon.
Hi,
Yusek.
Yusek.
Yes. Yes, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
So I guess the first place to start is if you could explain to us, I mean, we know what being an upper middle income status entails, pero ano po yung benefit to the ordinary Filipinos? Maybe you could start with that.
Oh yes, so itong upper middle income status nga, this is actually a classification being used by the World Bank, no? Para i-classify niya yung mga countries according to income. Tapos ng income na to, well, first of all, yun nga, yung gross national income siya, no? So ibig sabihin, kasama dito yung income ng ating mga OFW. So lahat po ng nationals ng Philippines kasama po dito, which is different from the gross domestic product. Kasi yung gross domestic product, kung ano lang po yung na-produce domestically in the Philippines. So this is gross national income divided by the total number of nationals of the Philippines. And then, so this is actually also corrected for cost of living differences so that it doesn't matter where you are in the world, that income will actually be able to afford you that same level of goods and services even though you are in the advanced countries. So in some cases, for some investors, they still look at individual indicators of what we call macroeconomic fundamentals, but others just look on the income classification. So in this case, being an upper middle income country, it actually brings us into that bucket of those some sort of a seal of good standing with respect to income. So this one will actually also attract some investments, and therefore hopefully it will also bring about the quality jobs that we want.
Ma'am, of course, it's all based on averaging, and a lot of things are lost when you do averaging. So let me ask you, for the benefit of people who are not that familiar with the economics and with the numbers, basically kasi tumaas yung gross national income natin, ibig sabihin tumaas yung pag pinagsama-sama mga income ng mga Pilipino for a year, mas malaki. So I can imagine ang tanong ng maraming tao, kaninong income ang tumaas? Kasi hindi kami. I can imagine maraming sasabi ng gano'n
Hindi income ko.
Oo. So sino po ang nakinabang at gumanda ang numbers, yung total numbers?
Dagdag po
Dagdag
sa sinabi ni Ed, naglabas po kasi ngayon ng statement yung pinakamalaking trade union Congress of the Philippines. Sabi nila, halimbawa, may 5 million minimum wage earners ka na 780 pesos per day yung sahod. At sa BARM, 411 per day. So, ibig sabihin, parang dapat kung upper middle income tayo, dapat upper middle income din daw yung kanilang wages. No? So, mahalaga ho na maipaliwanag. What's happening?
Yeah, tama po yan. Isa po to sa parang what we call limitations of an average, what an average really is. Kasi titingnan nga po natin yung the income of all Filipinos. So it doesn't matter kung ikaw yun nandun sa bottom of the income ladder o ikaw yun nandun sa taas.
Opo.
Pero on average po, ang nakita rin namin is, on average, syempre nakita nga na tumaas, no? Pero kung titingnan din po natin yung latest na Family Income and Expenditure Survey, tumaas din naman po yung incomes ng mga nasa baba. In terms of percentage, mas mataas din po yung tinaas nila. Pero syempre, pag inano mo yan in terms of levels, hindi pa rin yan ganoon kataas. So kumbaga may mga naging there has been progress across all levels, but of course it's not uniform sa lahat ng mga tao.
Yusek, maliit lang yung yung taas ng GNI natin doon sa threshold to become upper middle income. And ang challenge ngayon is to sustain it. Baka bumalik tayo doon sa dati. Medyo nakakahiya yun. And the Management Association of the Philippines said while they welcomed the new classification, kailangan daw may reforms. Ano yung nakikita niyong possible na nasa to-do list dapat ng gobyerno?
Yes, tama po yan. The challenge really is to be able to sustain this, na sana patuloy yung pagtaas. This is really a milestone, kasi it's mga 40 years in the making to. So, ang challenge natin is patuloy pa yung pagtaas ng income na to. The first thing that we need to do now, right away, is to accelerate yung spending on capital spending, especially of government. Kasi this one will increase our capacity to grow. So we need to invest more on infrastructure para mas malaki yung magiging capacity natin. We can have more trade, we can have more shipments, we can actually entertain more visitors, tourists, ganyan. At the same time, we need to invest a lot on human capital kasi ito rin talaga magdadala sa atin to the next level. So we need to invest in upskilling of our human capital. Kasi ang gusto nga natin is the quality jobs, but we cannot have the quality jobs if we do not invest in the upskilling of our people. So malaking bagay itong human capital investments natin, not just on education but also on health. And then of course yung social protection, as you know, ang dami nating calamities coming our way. Ngayon pa lang marami na, no? And every time there's a calamity, bumabalik tayo, no? Medyo nare-reverse yung gains natin. So we have to do a lot in terms of being able to recover quickly and better, para the next time the same calamity, hopefully not, comes, we will come out stronger. So ang isa rin sa namin dito is we need to really aggressively promote innovation as a driver of economic growth. Kasi habang nag-a-advance ang ating country, dapat padami yung yung magiging variety of products and services that we can actually produce and we can commercialize. So dito papasok yung innovation. Na kadikit din ito yung investments natin on research and development, pati na rin yung mga sa mga researchers natin, and of course yung mga tinatawag namin na innovation infrastructure including on technology.
Yusek, paano naman yung mga ibang strategic elements ng ating economy? Paano yung ating economy kasi is basically boosted by remittances at saka government spending. Yung ating mga neighbors, yung manufacturing industry at saka agriculture nila is very strong. Especially halimbawa yung Vietnam, nakakalampas lang sa atin several years ago. So ano yung plano dito sa mga sector na ito para hindi naman tayo dependent lang sa remittances and purely government spending?
And actually, it's remittances that pulled up our average, no? Our average GNI per capita.
Yes.
Yeah, tama po yun, no? And that is why we are really looking at improving the productivity of our people, of our economy. And pag sinasabi po natin productivity, ang kakambal po talaga nito is technology adoption, no? So para imbis na kunwari nananahi ka using a very very parang slow sewing machine, nandun ka na sa high speed, yon. So at the same time na nakaka-produce ka ng mas marami, mas nagiging productive, mas marami rin yung magiging kita mo. So in everything actually, malaking susi dito yung investment in technology, and as much as possible gusto sana natin mga homegrown technology, and that's the reason why we want to promote innovation amongst our people, and then yun na rin yung technology adoption. So kaya nandiyan din yung investment natin, let's say on the Luzon Economic Corridor. Ito mga high-tech industries ang gusto natin dito. So para naman maging ma-optimize natin yung pagkakaroon natin ng Luzon Economic Corridor, ang kailangan talaga dito, meron tayong workforce development program para yung mga magtatrabaho dito ay manggagaling din sa atin, manggagaling din sa hanay ng Pinoy. Hangga't maaari nga pwede nating ma-encourage yung ating mga OFWs to come back, kasi alam natin sila meron na ng know-how na yan para makatulong na sila dito sa atin.
But if we encourage more of the OFWs to come back, baka bumaba ulit yung GNI per capita. But
hindi po, kasi malalaki po yung magiging domestic portion. Kasi dalawang bagay po yun, yung domestic production tsaka yung sa national income. So kung magiging malaki naman po yung yung sa domestic production natin, kahit na mas maliit yung ambag ng GNI, so parang nung net primary income, on the whole magiging mas malaki pa rin po yan.
But can we talk about the practical implications of being classified as a UMIC, an upper middle income country? What's going to happen to our concessional financing and to preferential tariff rates?
Yeah, yung sa preferential tariff rate, by and large, that really depends on whether or not we have a free trade agreement, no? And for the past couple or 2 or 3 years, we have been very aggressive in negotiating many bilateral trade agreements. I think for this year we will be able to close, if not 3 or 4 na mga bilateral trade agreements natin, and mga regional na trade agreements. So wala po tayong problema sa sa preferential tariff arrangements natin, no. Now, with respect to concessional loans, this one, ang pagkakaalam po namin is we will be given a grace period, mga 3 years po 'yun. So where we can transition, kasi what this also means is that pwede na kasi tayong magkaroon ng mga commercial placements with respect to raising capital. So hindi na tayo kailangan pumunta sa mga yung mga ODA natin, pwede na tayo mag-go commercial. And big sabihin, we will actually have more options, but that also means that we need to improve the quality of our investments para maging attractive to the international investors. At the same time, we also need to demonstrate na kaya nating magbayad. So kailangan natin pagbutihin palalo, no, yung ating fiscal prudence, yung ating mga macroeconomic fundamentals, at malaki actually magiging papel dito ng private sector natin, kasi kailangan makapag-demonstrate sila ng that mas mataas na ability to earn returns.
But that's going to be a challenging, if not terrifying, gamble in the next 3 years if we don't step up. And we lose the ODA.
Because going
Ang laki ng
commercial,
ODA natin eh. Do you have a ballpark figure? How much
yeah.
might be at stake kung sakasakala within the next 3 years?
Yeah. Tama po yun, and that's the reason why naging very active din naman kami very active and strategic, no, with respect to tapping our ODA, specifically the sort of mga projects where may advantage yung ating development partners. Like for instance, yung mga subway, mukhang mas maganda nga yatang development partner ang kausap natin doon, para they will also provide the expertise, no? Yung mga airports natin, para magaganda rin, mga state of the art. Ganun yung ginawa natin sa very strategic tayo sa pagtap ng ODA. And the reason for that also is so that the sort of infrastructure that we will be developing is actually pwede nating ipagmalaki na this consistent with our UMIC status.
Pero mawawala yung access natin to certain ODA lines, hindi ba?
Opo. May transition po
magkano kaya
doon. Yeah, may transition po doon, and for the most part, it will actually be kumbaga aligned na dapat with their priorities. Meron din kasi ngayon na ang nagiging appetite ngayon ng mga investors, especially kung sa European, no, yung mga green financing. So if we can have programs or projects na where we can show that it actually is a sustainable development sort of financing or project, na it will be it's leading towards, let's say, circular economy or yung mga renewable energy project. Ito po, may appetite pa rin po dito ang mga ang mga even commercial lenders at that, and they are willing to give concessional rates for this.
Halimbawa yung Japan yen loan, that's our biggest ODA package. Eligible pa ba tayo doon kung sakasakali after 3 years?
It really depends on the appetite din ng Japanese investors, kasi sa ngayon itong the past years kasi masyadong mababa ang interest rate sa Japan. So ibig sabihin, kung magpautang sila sa kanilang mga Japanese investors din, ang baba ng pwede nilang i-charge. And so dagdagan nila ng konti, yun na yung sa atin, may konti pa rin silang kita. So depende pa rin po. But what we know is with respect to Japan, marami pa rin ho tayo na common interests eh. So I think we can still benefit.
Ma'am, let me follow up on Ami's question earlier. I understand, so the reclassification in part is because of the numbers that we showed, for example, last year, 2025, yung ating growth, for example. Pero this year does not seem to be as optimistic. First quarter, year-on-year, we had, 2.8, and inflation is so high. So there's also that concern by the time we're up for review, I think by July 1 next year, if you look at what the numbers could be this year, baka mag-slide tayo ulit. How stable are we in that position now?
Yeah, it is still the element of syempre yung cautious optimism natin, no. We have done some calculations, but it really hinges on us being able to catch up on government spending for this second half of the year, and I think that's actually in the work plan of our infrastructure agencies. Nakita rin naman natin na nagre-ramp up sila. So kasi nga pag government spending kasi may validity yung budget eh. So kailangan talaga nilang spend 'yon eh. So we're banking on that, and of course we already have as you know modest na population growth. So isa rin 'yun sa that's another thing going for us.
Yusek, can I just come back to Ami's question? So I take it to mean DepDev does not yet have an estimate for the potential ODA or grants or any other concessional
Affected.
financing loss. Wala pa pong estimate.
Yeah, at least for the next 3 years, we are sure that nandun pa tayo sa grace period.
Okay.
And then the strategy really going forward is to align our sort of yung mga projects natin that's up for international financing with the development priorities of the creditor. So like I said, yung mga sustainable financing. So yun ang pwede nating we can raise capital internationally.
Yeah.
As for the rest, dito natin sa sa local i-raise. Kaya kasama rin talaga dito, we need to what we call deepen yung ating capital market, no? Kailangan natin ng inclusive financing, kailangan pa rin natin ng mas marami pa na maging entrepreneur ng mga Pilipino, not just hindi lang yung sila mismong magbi-business, no, pero pwedeng sila yung makikibigay ng kapital para sa
Yeah.
business. So
But-
kailangan din natin ng very innovative na mga banks that will offer other investment options para sa mga yung mga kayang mag-invest.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying about when you said we can go commercial now, meaning we can tap the commercial markets to borrow, but going commercial also means paying higher interest
Mas
rates,
mahal.
correct? Mas mahal siya.
Yes. Mhm.
Are we ready for
Tama
that?
Tama po 'yun. So, and it really depends on yung returns to our investment. And therefore, we really need to be able to package good projects. Like I said, for now, ang ating nakikita na paraan is aligning yung mga projects na to with kung ano yung appetite ng ating mga development partners. So not even the commercial lenders, like I said, yung mga renewable energy projects, yung mga circular economy na mga projects na to, eto merong may appetite dito mga commercial lenders.
Just last
Now-
week, DepDev cut the GDP targets for the Philippines down to 3.5% to 4.5%, malayo po sa 5 to 6%. At the same time, the executive is proposing 7.2 trillion pesos in budget next year, another record high. Of course, any economist will tell you that slow economic growth compared with high spending is not a good combo. How will we finance this budget, Yusek?
Yeah, we expect that this slowdown in the GDP for this year it's really because of as you know, we had the slow government spending especially during the first quarter, no, and then we had the Middle East crisis. So ito yung mga nakikita natin na downside, but we do expect a strong recovery by next year. So it's not just us, no, even the other analysts are actually looking at the recovery by next year. So, para sumabay din dito, that's the reason why we have this expenditure program, which is really towards a recovery, which is really about again ramping up yung ating mga spending on the needed infrastructure.
But how will we finance the expenditure program with such a low growth and not so high revenue collections?
Yeah. We are actually maintaining our medium-term fiscal program, no? So na-compute na rin namin yung magiging deficit nito. Sorry, I don't have the exact number with me, no? Pero pababa naman yung deficit to GDP ratio na to. Kasi this is part of our commitment sa ating mga international partners din, no, that we will be undertaking a program of fiscal consolidation. So pababa po to all the way to 2030. So nandiyan din po yung dahil nga may expectation tayo ng recovery by next year. Take note that we will be coming off from a low base. Itong 2026, low base po to, no? So, in 2027, that's also the reason why we have a stronger growth for 2027. And so, kasama po dito sa recovery, pati na rin po yung recovery ng ating revenue generation.
Merong senior economist, Yusek from DepDev, sabi niya, the middle class is bearing the heaviest burden of a squeeze economy. Yun ang tawag niya, squeeze economy. Middle class daw nag-absorb ng high prices, ang taas daw ng borrowing cost, pero wala namang, hindi eligible for the ayuda that is being given out by the government. Anong nakikita niyo na pwedeng gawin along those lines para ma-mitigate naman?
Opo. At saka talking about the middle class, no, so you mentioned nga yung isang reason nga rin to na nakita na rin ng World Bank. We have actually an increasing middle class, except that sa ngayon nandun pa sila sa vulnerable. So, ibig sabihin, ang talagang kailangan po is ma-improve yung kanilang resilience. So we have to offer them access to inclusive financing. Tapos syempre nakita niyo naman po na nagkaroon na rin ng wage increase, no, in NCR, and magkakasunod na rin po to sa ibang regions, although we don't know yet kung magkano magiging agreement pag sa ibang regions, but this will be part of that. Tapos nandun din naman po yung mga mga program natin, let's say on although hindi sila mag-qualify for the ayuda, but there are still programs, let's say, with respect to healthcare, with respect to education assistance, and then for our MSMEs, marami rin pong programa ang DTI para makatulong po sa ating mga small businesses.
The deficit, you were talking, Yusek, about the deficit earlier. Based on the DBCC documents, it's 1.658 trillion pesos for this year. As a share to GDP, it's about 5.4%. Tapos next year, it's expected to inch up to 1.611 trillion deficit. Then 2028 is 1.695 trillion. Tama. And sorry, 1.722 trillion in 2028. So we are going to be increasing the deficit this year, next year, 2028, before it contracts in 2029.
Pero po as a proportion of GDP, it should be declining.
5.3, marginally 5.3 to 5.1% next year. Pero malaki pa rin yung utang, Yusek. So I guess the follow-on question from that is, do we anticipate having to raise taxes, for example, to close that deficit?
Yeah. Right now, there's not much talk about raising taxes, except for taxes that have to do with a clean environment. So like the single-use plastic tax. So yun po ang nagiging it's advancing more rapidly. With respect to the other taxes po, walang ganong discussion pa.
Okay. And if I could just come back to your... Did you want to say something?
No.
Okay. Kala ko magsalita si Ronald. If I could just come back to yung tariffs, you said that depends on the free trade agreements that we're working out. Do you mean na ma-offset ng mga potential FTAs yung loss in tariff rates, tariff preferential rates. Specifically, for example, with EU GSP Plus. Of course, the EU also looks at World Bank data in order to determine country classifications. So, ano pong mangyayari doon?
We have an ongoing negotiation with the EU. Meron tayong EU PHFTA that is currently under negotiation. We hope to finish it by this year. You're correct, no? Previous to this, nandun tayo sa GSP Plus, and that one actually is not really dependent on our income status. It's more on our being able to achieve or meet yung International Convention on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. So yun, so tinitingnan nila yung report ng UN High Commission. Kapag nakikita nilang maayos naman yung compliance natin, kasama pa tayo sa GSP. But this time, ang ginawa na nga natin is to negotiate a straight up na FTA with them.
The 3 FTAs that you're talking about that we're working on this year are EU, Canada, and is it UAE?
UAE.
Yeah, UAE, right?
UAE. Tapos meron pa rin with supposedly with Chile, pero hindi ko alam kung ano yung progress pa nun.
We're also talking to Chile for an FTA.
By way of sustaining itong upper middle income status na to, ano yung nakikita niyo malaking problema? What are the headwinds?
Well, for now, as in right now talaga, it's really about being able to ramp up our government spending. Yes, it's really about that. Yan. Tapos syempre,
Pero ang
yun na rin.
problema dyan, USEC, corruption.
Tama po yan.
Problema yan.
Yeah, tama yan.
Yun nga,
That's
Yusek,
why actually in our recommendation nga, ang number 1 namin doon is we really need to demonstrate a strong commitment to good governance reforms, no? And kung susundan niyo rin po yung nagiging usapan ngayon sa LEDAC po, no? Yung ating Philippine Budgeting Code, isa po to sa masusi naming sinusundan sa DBCC, no? Kasi marami po ang kumbaga mga problema natin sa budgeting na pwedeng masolusyonan itong budgeting code na to. For instance, yung mga unprogrammed appropriations, magkakaroon na po siya ng parang cap. Tapos ano lang yung mga pwedeng ilagay doon talaga. Yun po yung
ano
mga
po yung cap nyo? Ano po? Can you give us more details about the cap?
Nasa ano pa po? Nasa Kongreso pa rin po yung wala pa po sa amin yung draft noon, pero ito po yung mga certain features that we want included in the budgeting code. Tapos syempre yung iba rin na yung mga yung iba naman na mga executive actions din natin, yung tulad yung Project DIME, which is the Digital Infrastructure Management, kalimutan ko na yung basta monitoring system po yan by the DBM yan. Tapos meron din tayong third party monitoring also by the DBM din po nag-i-implement nun. So ito po yung mga reforms na itutuloy-tuloy natin, and hopefully nga po yung mga nagiging investigation din ngayon magkaroon ng resolution, no? Para maipakita talaga natin yung ating sincerity to good governance.
Yun yung crucial, Yusek, the elephant in the room. Para magkaroon ng good governance, you need good people. At kailangan yung tanggalin yung mga bad people. Pero sa ngayon kasi, very minimal yung nahuhuli at nakakasuhan eh. Diba? Going into the SONA of the President after nung kanyang mahiya naman kayo SONA, parang hindi ganun karami. Halimbawa, of the more than 60 congressmen implicated dito sa corruption, ni isa wala pang nakukulong. Dun sa 15 contractors na binanggit ng presidente, 0.5 kalahati lang ng isa ang nakukulong. 14 and a half hindi pa nakukulong. No? Sa pinangalanan mismo ng presidente. Diba? So, sa kahit pagsabihin na natin na nag-aakwan tayo, upper middle income country, hindi ito masusustain kung hindi yung major reform na gagawin ay manghuli. No? Manghuli. Ibig sabihin, all the other reforms ay walang mangyayari kung walang mapaparusahan. No? So, in the immediate, hindi natin nakikita yon, no? Na merong mapaparusahan na involved dito. Interrelated dito eh. Yung nabanggit natin kanina na slowdown sa government spending, it's about corruption. Diba? Yung investor confidence, partly it's about corruption. Diba? Yung mga ganun ba, yung mga pinag-uusapan natin na crucial to sustain upper middle income status ay, whether we like it or not, ay nakatali dito sa usapin ng corruption. And that is politics.
Pati nga yung gumagawa ng budget code ninyo, malakas ba pushback dun sa mga recommendations for reforms ng government? Any pushback from the lawmakers? Kasi sila yung apektado niyan eh.
Yeah, so far, wala naman po. Ang latest na report sa amin is that it's progressing quite well, at least in the lower house. So pagkatapos po sa lower house, ipapanig natin sa Senado.
Yusek, let me, kasi we started off the questions with how do we explain to ordinary people the idea
The
na
benefits of
tumaas yung average income ng Pilipino. So let me try to go back to that, but I think I missed out on something here. So basically, how do we explain it to them? Kumaga, I know it's an average, pero tumaas pa rin ang income. Whose income increased or improved? What sector ang pinaka magandang improvement that the numbers went up that much to push us up to that reclassification threshold?
Sa nakikita po kasi namin, broad-based po yung pagtaas no? Pero yun nga, no? Syempre, kung pagtaas kasi, depende rin, parang kahit na let's say 2% tumaas din yun, 3% tumaas. On average kasi ang naging pagtaas ng GNI natin was 8.5%. Between 2024 and 2025. Dun sa iba, hindi malaking bagay itong 8.5% na to, no? Depende rin sa ano yung base na pinag-uusapan natin. Pero kung halimbawa malaking base ang pinag-uusapan natin, malaking in absolute amounts yung 8.5% na yon. Ang gusto po namin sabihin dito is this is actually a development milestone. Yes, it may not be enough for a lot of people, pero yun na nga po yung susunod na kailangan nating trabahuhin. Make sure that alam natin kasi na ang taas din ng disparities, ano? Yun ang unang I think the first order of the day is really to lessen to mga disparities na to para mas mas mararamdaman nga ng lahat kung ano nga tong pagtaas na ito.
I know the World Bank says the gains were broad-based. Kaya lang, if you look at recent data on manufacturing and agriculture, those two industries are down. How do we reconcile that?
Ayan po yung sa ngayon, ano? Ang tinitingnan po kasi dito between 2024 and 2025. So for the year, parang etong 2026, ang pag-asa po natin is maka-recover tayo tong second half of 2026.
Can we do it, Yusek? Kaya?
Kaya po. Syempre, no, we are like you say, kailangan natin kayanin.
We have to. Now
cautiously optimistic
UMIC.
about this.
Pero
Ang isang maganda po nito is, yun nga, nagde-de-escalate na yung Middle East situation natin. So hopefully this will also lighten some of the pressures, especially mga fiscal pressures dahil brought about by this Middle East crisis.
Pero anong indications ang pwede nating makita o pwede nating ipakita sa ating mga tao with regards to manufacturing at saka agriculture na this will recover, that this will improve? Ano yung mga indications na yun?
For agriculture po, medyo mahirap sabihin niya because meron nga tayo ng El Niño, no? Pero isang pwede namin ipagmalaki dito is over the past 2 years. Yan. Naging tumaas po kasi ang investment natin sa irrigation system. Actually, nung 2025 po, naging mataas po ang produksyon ng agriculture, and it's really because nag-online yung isang malaking irrigation system. Etong 2026, medyo may naging maging problema pa tayo. Pero hopefully towards the end of the year may ayos din ito. With respect to manufacturing, ang nakikita nating pag-asa din is yung sa again yung mga pati rin po pala sa agriculture, ating mga free trade agreements na sana nga po is pretty soon maging ma-ratify na to, so that we can already be able to export so many more. Tapos, kung sa manufacturing po, ang nakikita namin dito is yung investment on the Luzon Economic Corridor, at saka syempre yun na rin mga free trade agreements natin.
Okay. On that note, we'll leave the conversation. Thank you so much for talking to us and explaining all of that. DepDev Undersecretary Rosemarie Odilion. Salamat, ma'am.
Salamat,
Thank
Sir.
you, Sec.
Maraming salamat po.
May dumang anghel.
My prompter was frozen. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for joining StoryCon. I'm Mipa Mintuan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star, and Ronald Llamas, a resident political pundit. Join us again tomorrow, 4 p.m. for StoryCon. I'm Brigida Lay.
I'm Ed Lingao. Kapatid, we are One News, your side all the time.
This is the Story Conference Group or the StoryCon Group.